Good morning, traders and investors. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by Options House. And we still have Kyle Snazzy Bazzy sitting in for Dennis. Kyle, how you doing getting up to this early in the morning 3 days in a row?
Good morning, Joel. Oh, come on. I got this. The Dennis, when he's going to come back, I might get a little too comfortable in this chair.
Okay. Well, from all accounts, you're doing a really good job here. You don't argue with me as much, and you don't correct me on my pronunciations when I say a the way I pronounce
Or
it, but
Chipotle.
or Chipotle and all those things. Oh, there Joe has to chime in with something.
Well, you blew me off this morning. I still had to
Well,
step
I
in and
just
say
asked you
something.
before we went on the air if you had anything to talk about, and you said no.
Well, I never have anything to talk
Well,
about. You're in charge of the topics here, my man.
okay, come on, go back to being the managing editor, okay?
Um, I'll have something else to chime in on later, I'm sure.
Okay, Spoos are trading up this morning. We made another high in the 1850 handle. Yesterday's high, 1851. We traded up to 1853 and a quarter. Now, I just want to point out here that the S&Ps are showing us up trading like two and a quarter, but really, you have fair value at 1843. So in essence, we're really trading five higher, and the reason for that is you had a little bit of a run up after the cash closed at 4 o'clock to 4:15. Someone got a little nervous being short. They ran it up. So even though the S&Ps are showing up three, we're really trading or showing up two. We're really trading up five according to fair value. So when you're doing your fair value calculations, keep that in mind. Double close yesterday at that key level, 1846. We've only traded 1847, Kyle. So I think just using that number, we're staying above 1846. That's my number on the upside or on the downside. We hold that, we're going higher.
Sweet. What did we close at yesterday again?
We closed at an all-time high close of 1846 and a quarter. The close on Monday was 1846. The former high that you had in December was at 1846.50. Do you think I'd like this 1846
That
number?
seems like a pretty important level to
I
me,
know
Joel.
it's. I couldn't sleep last night. I was thinking about 1846.
All right. Well, what are we looking at gold? What's the gold market doing this morning?
It's down $10. Gold's trading down actually $11 at 1331.70.
Is this the divergence we were looking for?
Well, this is finally, Tim was talking about it. The thing just can't keep going in the same direction here. It's been a pretty good sell-off here. Really in the last hour and a half, we've lost about $10 here. Gold did make a new high for the move yesterday at 1345.60. Came off that, or excuse me, made a new high yesterday at 43.80, made another high at 45.60, but we've reversed course here. We're trading at yesterday's low. If this move continues, next support level is 13.1870.
131870 is what we're looking at next for gold. How about crude?
Crude bounced back yesterday. Got down in the low 101s and then just came roaring back here with the market. We are now trading up 57 cents here at 102.46. Now you're not seeing a lot of resistance here in the higher 102s until you get to 102.82 was Monday's close and Tuesday's high at 102.84. We're still 40 cents away from here. But I think if I was trading this from the long side here, I'd be scaling out ahead of that 102.82 number. That's a pretty big level here. And the close coincided with Monday's close, so 101.90. We did trade through that earlier this morning, but I like that number on the downside.
Well, there are our levels for the overall markets, the SPOOS, gold, and crude. Joel, how about we get into some earnings?
Earnings,
We
earnings.
we did our Domino's pizza yesterday, so let's get a little bit of Peyton Manning's Papa John's reported 41 cents versus the street estimate of 41 cents. Revenues at 388 million versus 374 estimate. The fiscal year guided between 172 and 180. How does Papa John's look on the chart this morning, Joel?
People are liking pizza here, right? That Domino's yesterday had a good move. Today Papa John's here is popping up. The initial spike in Papa John's took you to 49.95 here. We've pulled off a buck since that. That is a new all-time high,
Woo.
49.95. Close to a nice round number like 50. I'll just alert our traders to a high that this issue had on January 23rd, which was 49.33. We are still trading below that level. I'd keep an eye on that 49.33 and then the pre-market high of 49.95. Coming back on the downside here, we're trading above the close quite a bit of, well, not quite a bit, 30 cents above the close of 48.59. I'd look at that to be your support level on the downside.
Now you know that Peyton Manning owns like a bunch of those franchises.
You know that I'm not a Peyton Manning fan.
I don't know this.
Yes, yes. Quick
So he
history.
lost. What's that?
Quick history on this.
I just suddenly became a Peyton Manning fan. Now we have something to talk about.
Yeah, his stellar performance there in the Super Bowl. He went to Tennessee, right?
hmm
And '98, Charles Woodson was vying for the Heisman, and everyone thought that it should go to Peyton Manning. Well, that didn't bother me so much. But the reason that Michigan tied for the national title in '98 with Nebraska is because the coach of Tennessee, Philip Fulmer, voted Michigan third, even though they were undefeated in the final poll, and he put a one-loss team ahead of them, and that ended up causing us to tie with Nebraska for the national title instead of winning it
Oh.
outright. So I just since he's associated with Tennessee, that's why I don't like Peyton Manning. But his stock's doing okay here, that's for sure.
All right, moving on. We have FSLR with 89 cents reported versus a
Oh,
street's estimate of 99 cents. That's a big miss. Weak guidance of 50 to 60 cents versus estimate of 84 cents. Joel, FSLR has got to be hurting a little bit this morning.
hurting a little bit here. It's amazing the way this stock could just go in the opposite direction of SCTY. Charts are giving me a problem here this morning, but let's see if I can come up with some good numbers for you. Traded down here under $50 here. We made a low at 49.50, and then someone stepped in there big time. Went down since we made that 49.50 low. We've gone up to 51 even. So here we are at 51 even. That's resistance. Looking on the dailies here, you did have some support at the $50 level. 50 was the low, 50.03. So 49.50 to 50.03 is what we're looking at for support for solar. And then you have resistance. Right now, you have pre-market resistance at 51. But if it blows through there, got a lot of room on the upside.
That's one of our big movers of the morning. Like you said, it's pretty amazing how it's going against its big counterpart in the sector. Next up, we have CBI reported 180 versus street estimate of 116. Revenues of 3.08 versus 3.07. Fiscal year 2014 guided at 480 to 565 versus a 518 estimate. And we also have a Stifle Nicholas maintains buy and raises the price target from 90 to 92.
Got a big spike in this up to 82.50. Come back down to the $80 level. Since we're trading at 80 here, you got to look at these two highs just above 81 here. Going back a couple days, you had a high at 81.20 and 81.17. We are trading away from that. That will be your first resistance point. 81.21 was also the high on January 24th, coming back on the downside here. Close 79.52 should provide support.
All right, we're going to continue with earnings Wednesday. One of my darlings, Target TGT, reported 130 versus 124. Weak guidance for 2014, 385 to 415 is the range versus an estimate of $4.15. Our retails are looking like what today, Joel?
Oh man, they initially liked the numbers here on Target. Took it up to 50, a big bracket here, 55.50 low, then going up to 58 even. 57. Now we've come back and settled in here at the $57 level. On the daily chart, had a high at 57.82. That coincides with the pre-market high at 58. So if you can get back another buck here, you can expect some resistance. Coming back on the downside here, had multiple highs at the 56.70 level. 30 cents away, I expect that to act as support here in the session.
So they popped it up after it was a
Yeah.
good, a good beat bottom line. But weak guidance is surprising that they kept target up that high. All right, next up we have it looks like PLTR with a $1.02 earnings with versus estimate of 106. Fiscal year 2014 guidance 291 to 313 versus an estimate of 325 this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree was that one?
Say
Delta.
again.
Was
Yeah,
that Dollar?
DLTR.
Okay.
Sorry, I said P.
DLTR. Yes.
You guys.
DLTR. Dollar
Oh,
Tree.
okay, let's take a look at Dollar Tree, see how it's trading here after those numbers. Down it goes here. Initial spike took it under 50, 55, down to 50.10. Getting a little bit of a pop here. If you're looking at the daily charts, which you can't see on mine, but under $50 here, had multiple lows. You had 1, 2, 3, 4 lows between 49.59 and 49.69. That is going to be a big area. If they take it down another buck, that's going to be your support area. If it takes that out, boy, I don't know. You could be trading in the mid 48s. Coming back on the upside, since you made the low, 51 has provided some minor resistance for Dollar Tree.
We just did Home Depot, was it yesterday? So let's go to Lowe's. LOW, 29 cents versus 39 or 31 cents, excuse me, street estimate. Revenue right in line at 11.7. Fiscal year 2014, 260 versus 269. Now, Home Depot traded and Lowe's looks like they're up about 3% in the pre-market this morning.
Yeah, initial spike on this. I took it up to 51.90. That just blows away any level that this is traded at. Well, it did trade. Let's see here. In November, it traded at 52.08, and then if you go back even a little bit farther than that, in late October, it traded up at that area where came down pretty hard off that. I think this is one of your thicker issues here. Now, you did have all that resistance at the 48.37. That was the high. A couple other highs were 48.30. This might be the one where you have a little bit of paper, holding it down. Trades quite a bit of volume, maybe some GTC offers. Might, open this one up in the, oh boy, I can't see this thing opening at 49.75. I wouldn't want to own it there, but if it opened under 49 bucks, it'd be perhaps a buy, and then taking it up. You have to keep an eye on $50. You had a level there. 49.91 was the high on January 13th. And let's just take a look to see how Home Depot is reacting this morning. That's continuing higher. Made a high, closed on its high yesterday at 80.98, 81 high, trading up at 81.27 in the pre-market. You did have some resistance at the all-time high at 82.57. That was made in January.
Now, the 52.08 is the all-time high for Lowe's, right?
Let's just go back here and take a look. I believe both of these issues are trading at all-time highs.
Wow. Home repair is the way to go, eh? Those
Yeah.
hot dog stands are.
That's the hot dog stand. That's at Home Depot.
All right, next up we have, I believe it's HAD. Is that correct? Horizons? Nope, not the bond ETF. I got the wrong chart up right now.
Okay, yeah, that's my bad handwriting.
That's your bad handwriting, Joel.
Okay.
It's awful.
Taser.
Taser. We're heading right
Holy
to Taser.
cow!
That
That is a
TASR,
stretch.
13 cents versus street
Oh,
estimate
my
of
Lord.
7 cents. revenue of 40 million versus the street estimate of 37.43. EPS
Ugh.
is up. What are we looking at Taser this morning, Joel?
Oh my, that it is gunning down the shorts here this morning. This thing is just been on a tear here. Hit 2209 in the pre-market on the initial news, and then it got spiked down to 2057, just huddling here at 21. This is blowing away some levels here. Traded 1936 and 2007. Looking at this thing, it had its crazy move back in '05 where it cascaded down from 33.45, to $14. This was in December and January. So you're just getting into a vacuum area here in Taser. It looks like 20 was the major breakout. I don't think I would chase this thing. I think I'd more, if it got up to the pre-market high, 2209, use that as a resistance point. I just don't know where to buy this thing. I mean, in order for it to get back into yesterday's range, you need it to come down to 1950. So if you are playing this short at all, I'd have bids above that 1950, 1960, 1970 because you got a lot of company here that is stuck on the short side.
Brent, I'm pulling up our next retailer here, ANF Abercrombie. I haven't worn that shirt since I was in middle school. Can you pull up top line for Target and ANF though? I want to see because ANF reported 134 versus street estimates of 103, fiscal year of 215 to 235 range versus the estimates on the street of 233. But I'd love to see what the top lines did for the both of those, and they accelerated 150 million share buyback as well. ANF's got to be trading up. We're up about 6.8% here in the pre-market.
Yeah, it's just got a real nice pop. The initial spike took it up to 39 and a quarter, settling back in here at the 38 and a half level. These retailers are just all over the map. I mean, you just had a high at 38.82 back on November 4th. So that is your initial resistance point, and then above that, once again, I'll mention the pre-market high at 39 and a quarter. Hard to believe the stock was under $32 just back on February 5th, 31.73. So people might be looking to take some profits on this pop here.
All right. So for Abercrombie, they reported 1.299 billion in total sales. U.S. sales were 852 million, international 447 million. For Target, the top line was 21.5 billion.
What were the estimates though?
Okay, so for Target, estimates were 21.45 billion, and so a slight beat there. And then ANF, the estimate was for 1.36 billion, so a slight miss there.
Okay, got you. Oh, I was wondering about that. I didn't know if our man Tim Melvin was continuing his trend. I know Macy's missed on the top and beat on the bottom yesterday as well. So kind of seeing that trend continue. Last but not least on the earnings front, and thank you, Brent, for those revenue numbers, is the public company I see at every trade show that I go to, and that's Chesapeake Energy Corporation, CHK, reporting a 27 cents versus estimates of 41 cents this morning, Joel.
Yeah, you think they'd be beating this thing a little bit more. That's a pretty big miss. Made a low just in the last bracket at 26.05. Getting a little bit of a pop up here to 26 and a quarter. Stock had just a nice run from, I believe that's probably February 7th. He had 23.92. Then he started to run in resistance at 27.50. We are trading through yesterday's low, which was 26.72. There's actually a couple lows in the 26.70 handle. That's going to be your resistance point. On the downside, we've already taken out the 26.30 level. That was your 4-day low. Underneath that, let's take a look at 25.80. 25.80 is your next support point in Chesapeake Energy.
All right, looking for some earnings after the close today. We have Barnes & Noble, BKS, looking for a report of 61 cents. Joe, I don't know if you want to pull up the charts on any of these or if we just want to talk about them real quick. Canadian Pacific Railway (CP) after the close today, looking for 79 cents. Joel, either one of those interesting plays here after the close?
This BKS has had a big run. Brent, they had some news that someone was taking was it an activist role? I mean, they're always talking about someone buying them or being sold or something. I remember that for a couple days ago because you had that big run up. You had a spike 3 days ago, took it up to 1919, and that day it closed. It ended up closing week at 1769. Last two sessions, nearly identical ranges here. 1805 and 1813 were your last two highs. Your last two lows at 1723 and 1733, and getting some consolidations at the close as well. So perhaps a day to trade the ranges here in Barnes and Noble.
Joel, you were thinking a couple of days ago, the 21st. G Asset Management is the fun name. They offered to purchase 51% of Barnes & Noble at $22 per share. And I think if I'm remembering this right, this was related to Barnes & Noble's Nook assets. And that is the tablet kind of e-reader device that they have.
So not a big believers in this. And if they wanted to buy him at 22, and you only got a spike to 19 here, so definitely some skepticism here of whether or not that buyout. And what the CEO, I believe, was trying to do a similar thing. But we'll see what happens with the earnings. Remember the double top at 1805, 1813, and double bottom on the downside. 1723 and 1733.
I love Barnes and Noble, Joel. Saturday, Sunday. That's where you find me working, reading and working in
Do you
Barnes and
buy
Noble. So,
anything there, or are you just one of the people that just sits there all day and
I buy the Starbucks coffee,
yeah?
and then they once in a while they'll get me for a book, but it's so hard because usually I'll go back to my seat and I'll pull up Amazon and I'll get it inside their store for half off, just not at their store.
I mean, they're the only bookstore left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only major
There's
retailer.
no borders. What's that called, Kyle, when you go in a store and go shopping, look around the prices, and then go on Amazon and see where you can get a better deal? There's like a name for it. I'm trying to think of it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna come to me.
Scamming.
I know you're talking about. I'll think of it. Let me, Brent, you harp on that for a second. I'm gonna finish up the last three here. Also, to the close, we have Albran looking for a 161. That's the street estimates. Something I'm gonna need after this show is a Bud, BUD. 131 is the street estimate after the close. And last but not least is Cable Vision System Corporation, ticker symbol CVC, and they're looking for a 8-set estimate after the close here. Joel, we have any good trades inside there for our listeners this morning?
Well, it looks like the Al brands here had a double top at 54.46 and 54.53, and it's busting through there right now in the pre-market. So that's just an odd lot trading up there at 54.92. So keep an eye if this thing goes to 54.50 with some gusto here. You could get a nice pop in this thing. Really, no major resistance to the rest of the 54 handle or the 55 handle. You had a high at 56. Well, you did have a high at 55.26 on the 17th, so that could be a shorter term target if you could pick that thing up closer to yesterday's highs, which was your yesterday's high, which was 54.46.
Brent, is it called showrooming?
I feel
doesn't
like
sound right, but
I feel like
I've
Jake
heard
might
that
know
wrong.
this one. Jake, were you listening? What's it called when you go to like a retailer and you're looking at all the prices and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go on Amazon and find a better price? There's like a specific name for it. Kyle said showrooming, but I don't know. He doesn't know if that's it either. So
The answer escapes us this morning. So
Google
we're going to move
Google
on
might know.
to some movers. Joel, you know I'm always a fan of movers. We have Apple, Tesla, surprise, Facebook, Twitter, BlackBerry, Macy's, and DKS. Joel, which ones are you liking for some trades this morning?
Well, the looking at this DKS, if you're a fan of Dennis's 2-day move here, this thing had all this resistance at the 52. Actually, Jake did a great job of pointing that out. Had 5, 6, 7 highs at 52, and got that upgrade from Sazi. It wasn't a huge one. It was from from sell to hold. Well, people decided to buy on that. Took it through 52. Made a high of 53.01. Perhaps someone's targeting that 53 area. I like to see it just hold the close and just march right through that $53 area for the 2-day move. Not much resistance in the rest of the 53 handle, and really not much in the 54 handle until you get to 54.64. The weakness in Apple is just a little bit. I mean, the market's holding in here. But Apple has been exhibiting some weakness. Opened up at its high for the day yesterday and sold off pretty hard. If you're trading this thing, it's trading up $2 in the pre-market. It's had a pretty steady rise. Just keep an eye. See if you can get back between 522.42. That was the low on Tuesday, or excuse me, on Monday, and then Tuesday's low was 521. So perhaps if you can pick this thing up at the 522 area, risking a point down to the 521, perhaps a lower risk trade. But it's a little consolidation here in Apple, and then that resistance at 530 is really starting to stick out here. Two highs at 29.57 and 29.92.
Hey Kyle, I got it real quick. It's
Oh,
called
thank you. It's bugging the hell out of me.
it's called web rooming.
Oh, that's
You were
not
close. No, that's not it.
No, that's not it.
Web rooming. That's what.
I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna come back on the show tomorrow. I'll try to do research all day instead of work and figure it
All
out.
right,
You guys
all right.
can't figure that out on Google?
I guess not. I googled it. I got showrooming, but that just doesn't sound right.
Short Google then. It's,
Short Google.
It's losing you.
Up at 9 a.m. today, we have a blast from the past for me, Ryan Mallory, co-founder of SharePlanner. Joel, I'm going to give you a little history because I don't know if you were around. I'm not going to say alive, but if you were around 4 years back when Benzinga started, Ryan actually ran one of our swing trade products on the site. So good to see Ryan back. Spoke with him recently. He's got some great trading ideas and tips for all of our traders. So listen up there at the top of the hour, 9 a.m. So moving a little past our movers here, GGB, JH3, Violin, if you guys are in here, give us some of the tickers you guys are trading. Would love to learn what you guys are doing this morning, midweek here. Been a decent week, I'd say, Joel. But moving on to a little bit of ratings. JPM initiated coverage at KR at overweight, price target of 46. KR, do we have anything on the blip on the screen here, Joel?
Not really moving here in the pre-market. It's actually trading down a penny here. Real good support though in this issue. You had two lows at right at the 39.50 area, 39.47 and 39.60. So that's excellent support. Two highs here also at 39.96 and 40.11. Very similar ranges here. You also had a high at 40.11 here. So I'm looking for this. If it can break out of 40 here, get above that off, pretty quickly into the session, take that seller out. You could have some room to float up to 40 and a half. And it's interesting. They're putting kind of a pair trade on here. They're downgrading Safeway to neutral from outperform. That stock has been on a heck of a run here. So got a little bit of a pair trade. Got well-defined resistance here in Safeway. Last three highs between 37.70 and 37.77. The lows are pretty close the last 2 days on the downside here at the 36.90 level. So they're digesting that news there. Perhaps if you're looking at a swing trade, not worried about the takeover, you could be leaning on that triple top there at 33.70 to 77 as a possible short-term top in this thing. I mean, here we were trading near the $30 level back in early February, traded at 29.82, so almost a straight-up move. I know there was some rumors on it as far as being bought or someone taking it in private. Brent, if you can rustle that up for us. Coming out of the chat room here, Tesla.
Let's get some levels on Tesla from
Let's get some levels.
JRR,
Oh,
our man.
I wish I could break. I know who was it? who was really happy yesterday. I think it was J Dot. He was ringing the cash register on this Tesla here.
Yes, he was. I mean, look
Trading.
at this thing. This is inelastic, is what it is. It doesn't matter what the market does. It doesn't matter what happens. Tesla is moving to the upside. I'm long Elon Musk here, Joel.
You did. Let's see here. Trading in yesterday's session here, you made a high at 259.20. Lo and behold, you're bumping up against that level, trading up $10 here in the pre-market. You made a pre-market high at 258.75. Excuse me, 258.78. The fact that's coinciding with yesterday's high, round number 260 here. I mean, you got to bust through that 260 to continue the momentum. But holy mackerel, Morgan Stanley swinging a big stick in Tesla yesterday, and the street filed. Probably had a lot of people shorting it. I guess the only the only level I could give you that is the all-time high at 259.20.
Swinging a big stick. That's the new one, Brent. Hey, Brent, do you have any news? We got GGB looking at JAKK, Jack's Pacific. Do you see any news on that, or are we just looking at earnings? And Joel, let's pull up the chart here for GGB and see what we got for him. I know it's a little bit of a smaller stock, but see
Oh,
if we got any
Jack
important levels for him.
Pacific. I was looking at Jack in the Box. Jack Pacific. All right, so they did have earnings out at 6 this morning, pretty early report. Q4 loss of 37 cents per share. Looks like that's the gap figure. The adjusted loss figure I'm seeing is a loss of 50 cents per share. Analysts were looking for a loss of 82 cents per share. And sales coming in at 137.7 million. Let me get you that estimate really quick. Looks like they beat on the bottom line and on the top line. Also looks like a beat. Analysts were under 130 million.
Just spiked up to 690, starting to pull back here a little bit. Or 690 is the last price, and that has been the high of the pre-market. Couple thousand shares are trading here. I want to alert our traders to the 698. Yeah, three highs in a row between 698 and 705. This is going back in mid-January, early January. Take that out. You got more momentum going up to the recent high of the move, which was also the high of the year at 733. Might see a little bit of struggling here, though, at the $7 level.
It looks like also they had some pretty strong guidance. Q1 loss expected in the range of 77 to 81 cents per share. Analysts are down at a loss of 76 cents per share. Ooh, that is worse than expected, actually. And then the sales figure for Q1 expected in the range of 72 to 75 million. Analysts are just under 80 million. The fiscal year sales guidance 633 to 640 million. Analysts are at 640, almost 644 million. So I stand corrected on the guidance. Looks like Q4 beat, but then the Q1 and fiscal year guidance not looking so hot.
Our
JAR is asking for support on Tesla here, and I'm telling you, I, support is just so hard to to fathom in this thing. I mean,
She rips up, she rips down. There's no ceiling or no floor for this girl that she can't take out in a second.
255. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm looking at the 15-minute
Brent,
chart.
write that down. I want that for tomorrow's show. 255 is what we got on support on Joel. We have him on record.
Minor
This
support.
show is being recorded. I want 255 on the
Hey,
record.
I wish I don't know what's going on with my stupid charts here. I wish I could show on the pre-market chart on the 15-minute pre-market chart. I'm giving away all my secrets here. Multiple lows at the 255 area. So that is minor support. Will you please put a capital M in that minor here, because I don't want anybody losing money on that call here. But we're gonna have to get to our guest here. I'm missing a few tickers here. I'm just gonna do this one here. I'm gonna pick up this INVN, and then we're gonna take a quick break here. INVN spotty trades here. Looks like it's breaking out. Multiple highs, 2055 to 2060. Trading below that level here. You break above there, think you got some room in a 21 handle.
Folks, we're gonna get to. I know we got a couple other tickers in the chat. We'll get to right after we have Harlan from All About Trends on at 8:35. My man, we're gonna get to CANN, INVN, and Jiva when we come back. We'll take a quick break.
Welcome back, traders. We have our guest today is Harlan Pyan, rhymes with lion, of All About Trends. And Harlan, I have to say, you have been all about this trend up.
Well, I just use support and resistance, and I don't fight the tape. And, you want to use support and resistance and, see if you get a reaction off of those levels. The S&P sure did it. Sure, you eked into a new high a day or two ago. It didn't really stick. But, that's the type of action you want to watch out for. After you've had a market that just went from 1740 to 1850 in a heartbeat. So, a little bit of pullback, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Actually, it'd be a good thing. In a weird sort of way, you want the market to go down to catch its breath. So, my levels, watch the 50-day, which is around 1816, right around 1813. If you slow a Fibonacci on off of the 1740 to 1860 highs, you're looking at a 38% retracement right around the 50 days. So we could, drift down there, pull back, and then make another run. If you're a bull, that's the what to watch for. So.
Yeah, you kind of had that blow off high. I mean, you took out all that paper that you had accumulating at the in the mid 1840s, and then you just floated up on Monday, and it was just one of those blow off moves where the shorts were thrown in the towel. People were chasing. Oh, we're breaking out. We're breaking out. I got to get in, and you drifted up, and that was a little too much. And then you had the sell off here. Were you faked out by that? Because yesterday's move was kind of tough. It kind of looked like it was really
No,
going to be a good fake out.
well, I wasn't faked out by it because remember last week we talked about shake and bake, how you get those shake and bake, shake out highs, and that's exactly what we saw with the S&P. Think about it. When you break out like that, those trade bots out there, they know where all the stops are. So anybody that placed a stop, was short, placed a stop into a new high, they saw them coming. It's like showing your hand when you place those physical stops on the books. So, you probably popped some stops there. And of course, after all the shorts cover, well, there's your buying power. And once that disappears, you start to trail back down. So, it didn't surprise us. I look for that all the time. When you see markets get euphoric and everybody gets really bullish, I tend to pull in my horns. I'm
Right.
not 100% of a contrarian, but, I know enough about psychology of trading to step aside on times like that. There's a good time and a bad time to buy stocks. For me, what works for me is I don't buy strength. I buy weakness at support, and then let the market prove me wrong.
What about I like to do my levels on the S&Ps for daily parameters, and it's just it gets to this point where you don't have any resistance. I mean, you have the all-time high at 1856.75. I believe. What do you use for targets on this? Or you just let the market take you out on the downside, or I mean, there's also formulas that predict the ranges. What do you do? I mean, how do you pick targets in this?
Well, I typically don't pick targets. And the reason I don't is because I do not want to become mentally attached to a target, because the market really doesn't care what you want and where you think it's going to go. It's going to do what it wants to do, and it's the boss. The last thing I don't want to do is place a target. I have a saying: 50 cents will cost you 2 points. And if, let's say, I place a target and say ABC stock has got a target of $55. Well, what if it gets to 54 and a half and it's extended about the time the market's pulling back? Well, you know what? I got that mental image in my mind that I'm going to get that extra 50 cents. And guess what? I don't get it. And then the stock rolls over and it ends up costing me $2 when if I wouldn't have been mentally attached to that target, I would have had a nice gain, more so than, had I been attached to the target, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So,
Go ahead, Kyle.
So that's really why I don't use them.
So Harlan, I've actually watched you and Dave trade for a while on the MarketFi side, and one thing I wanted to, I had some questions on were, how are you guys looking? Which stocks you're picking to trade for the day?
Well, there's times where we do some day trades, and times where we don't. For us, it's all about chart pattern recognition. I know what I'm looking for. In uptrending markets, I'm looking for issues that are in clearly defined uptrends that are pulling back off their highs. Let me give you a couple of examples. Look at PANW, Palo Alto.
You said clearly defined uptrends that are off their highs?
I know we don't have charts available on the show today, but
we're trying, Harlan. Go ahead, though.
Palo Alto Network, PANW.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm looking at a six months with a 50-day moving average. That's my chart frequency.
Okay.
And if you can take a look at it off the November lows, here's an issue. It just kept trending higher, trending higher, trending higher. And then all of a sudden there came a point in time in the middle of January where the stock pulled back off its highs, hit 65, came down to that 57.5 zone, which is right near the 50-day moving average. And you can kind of see it had like a little 45-degree angle there. What I'll do there is I'll line up my tops, I'll draw a little pink line, and I call that a pullback off highs line. And then you just sit back, you either buy it on weakness, and as long as it holds the 50-day in a support, you just stay there until something happens, or you get stopped out.
Are you buying the stock, or are you using options?
Just the stock.
Stock.
Yeah.
So that's a solid trade idea for everyone in the chat right now. If you guys pull up PANW, looking at the chart, if you got questions for Harlan, pipe them into the chat for us. We'll get him to answer it. So PANW. Okay. So you're looking at it. Can you give us those levels again there, Harlan, on PANW?
Everything from the mid-January through the beginning of February. It hit a peak at 65, pulled back to like 57.5, which also coincided with, the S&P and the NASDAQ looking like it was falling off the face of the earth at that moment in time. But you were hitting support levels on those indexes as well at that moment in time. So, we bought the stock, and as long as it's in a clearly defined uptrend, we're going to try and stay with it. And then obviously for a swing trader, you just line up those little tops from mid-January through, first few days of February, and then just wait for it to break out. The moment it breaks out, you take the trade. You're at the mercy of the market. and then just go along for the ride.
So you like to buy into weakness then, right? You made that statement. I mean, and the thing's set up. So I got some weakness for you here. I got some weakness for you in First Solar. Okay.
Oh
Did
gosh.
well, I didn't mean to scare you, Harlan. Don't
Yeah.
you're not hanging up on me, are you?
No, 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 no. Where's this thing going to open? Right around 49.50 or something?
Yeah, it's trading at a 50.20 right now and made a pre-market low. Someone made a stand here at 49.50, a huge stand. You had some lows at 49.70, another low at the $50 area. You're giving back a lot here. Is this something? I mean, is this stock is not on your watch list, so you're not trading it? Do you like to see what happens for a day or two, or what you're planning in this stock?
I'm not trading it only because I trade what I see, not what I think, not what I hear, not what I fear. I need to see the pattern. That's the discipline, and I stick to it. I don't see any sort operating on a daily frequency, any sort of chart pattern. I see support at 47.50-ish, and that's really all I see. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go step in and buy it at 47.50 if it goes there. It's support, but I like to see stocks stabilize at a support because support can break too.
Right, so
So
you're
for
not
us, there's
stepping
really
in
no trade.
today, but you'd like to see maybe if it made like a double bottom or triple bottom within 20, 30 cents and over the next few days and it gave you a reference point, then
Yeah.
perhaps you would look at it on the long side?
Yes, you really want to see some stabilization. That's key for us. I want to see stabilization. I want to see support hold. Just like resistance, if you're shorting resistance, you want to see resistance stick. So,
Okay.
but yeah, for us, there's just no trade here unless you want to buy support and take a shot. But then you have a stock that's not in a clearly defined uptrend.
No, it did.
So,
It had a nice run. All right, and then everyone's talking about Tesla, and
oh God,
yeah, and one of our traders asked me for support on it, and I just looked at the 15-minute chart here, and I was able to come up with 255, and that's just based on what the market has given me basically since 5:15 a.m. this morning all the way through 7:15 or so, that 255 level held.
right.
How would you come up with support on something like this, and also how do you come up with resistance?
Well, it depends what time frame and frequency you're working in. Right now, you're talking about the 15 minutes. So that's more from a day trade mentality, right in here, short-term mentality. Really, you gapped up yesterday, and what was that? About 218. Let's just call it 218ish. You gapped up, and if you were long, you just enjoyed the ride. In the short term here, gosh, there's support at 220. Are you going to fill the gap? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are you going to fill the gap? Right now, there's more resistance at 260 than there is anything else. I look at it this way. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered.
Pigs
So,
get slaughtered. I agreed.
I mean, look at it. I mean, if you're long the stock, guess what? Hey, you've had a nice ride. Enjoy the ride. But you also got to put a little bit of caution here. One can trail and scale. You might want to do a happy medium, scale a little bit out. What are you thinking if you bought this thing, let's say first of the year? Or what if you bought it as it broke out at 190? And here you are pushing, 250, 260. Hey, give yourself a pat on the back. You do have to pay yourself too. No one said you had to get rid of the whole thing, but just remember, the sun is always brightest at its peak.
That's such a solid lesson for everyone out there, and it's definitely easier said than done, Harlan, because we're all bad at this. But taking it off the table and mitigating your risk, I always look at it that way. If I'm up, take some money off the table and let's let this be a free trade for us. I'm a man of the people, Harlan, and I got a couple of questions for you in the chat. DJ's asking about CVI, if we can pull that up, Joel, or at least find out the levels on it. And even beyond that, into all of this, Harlan, a bigger question is, how much does daily volume play into your strategy?
Obviously more so in the older days, but you know what? Price pays. Think about it from that way. We've seen numerous times where, a lot of these stocks, they really won't go up on monster volume. Of course, it's preferable, but I'm more interested in what is the overall trend, what is the overall pattern, where's support, where's resistance. Volume hasn't, at least for me over the past few years, really came into play that much. It's preferable, but there's no such thing as the perfect stock, and there never will be. So while we like to have it at times, if you have the perfect stock and it doesn't have a lot of volume, you're going to end up talking yourself out of some things. So there's a lot more than just volume that comes into play for us. CVR Energy, resistance 44, support 35. The stock's pretty well all over the board over the last 3-4 months with really no decent gauge. So I'd be watching resistance at 44. It just made a nice run, 38 to 42.13. So, that's not that bad. I do see one trade with it, but that was back at the beginning of December. For those of you looking at a daily chart with a 50-day, you'll see the November lows. It's stair-stepped all the way up to the end of the year. Look at those 2 steps forward. 1 step back is your pullback off high pattern, just like on Palo Alto.
Well, Harlan, we really appreciate you coming on the show this morning. If you wouldn't mind, dude, jump into the chat room. You got a bunch of people asking about some tickers. If you want to chat with them, and then I'll drop your link to All About Trends on MarketFi. Guys, check out Harlan and his counterpart, Dave. They are some of the smartest guys out there. I've known you guys for over a year now, and it's been great working with you guys and seeing what you can do. So, Harlan, always appreciate it. Harlan's going to jump into the chat and answer some more. So if you guys got more tickers for him, I'm sure he'll be glad to discuss them in the chat room while we're also point you over to his service called All About Trends. Harlan, as always, brother, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
You betcha. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Yeah, just a reminder, anyone who has a MarketFi login already can log into the chat with it as well, and it has all your information ready to go.
A violin maker too, Joel, traded Tesla, and I saw in the chat he said he's setting that short stop off of your boy Gil yesterday. So he's made some money off of the show. Good to see it, Violin. That's definitely what we're here for. Joel, before our next interview at 9 a.m. with my boy Ryan Mallory, I have some tickers. Are you ready?
Yep. We're still trying to get the charts up here. The gremlins are getting us on Info Rider, but I'll see what I can do. What do we want to look at? Well, first of all, I want to talk to DJ about the CVI here. What a run in this beat, DJ. I mean, this thing, I keep an eye on that close. I'd really like to see this thing get above 42.13, go up, take up that 42.43 high, and just keep going, because this looks like, whew, just a little bit. Like, you get back under 42, DJ, I think you'd be back at 41.50 in a heartbeat. Okay, what else you got for me, Uncle Kyle?
All right, so I got a ton of stuff. I see Colts luck coming in, guys. I have a ton of tickers here. We are men of the people.
We are in a fast market. You know what that fast
market. Let's go fast. Hurry. What's your trade? Trade of the day, Joel. Let's look at Bank of America, BAC. I think we brought her up yesterday or Monday. I got Colts luck coming in with that. Jiva seems to be a popular ticker. TUR and GE. We're going to get to all that shortly, but first up, Bank of America, Joel.
Bank of America has been a dog. There's been a dog on this rally, as many as one of the other financials, and we've talked about this. I mean, you kind of got a stair step. You have 4 higher lows, so that's a good thing here. I guess if you're looking from a swing trade perspective, you're leaning heavily on the 618 double bottom here. You're only 20 cents away from there. Holding the $16 level, spiked high after earnings. It's just wake up, Bank America. You need an upgrade from somebody, but low risk swing trade here if you're leaning on the 618 low. And then let's look at Jiva. I know this one.
Going a little biopharma on you with Jiva here.
Oh yeah, these Buy and buy more. I mean, that's the only thing you can do with these stocks when they come out with good news. I don't know what the news is coming out with this one. 117.74 was the high from yesterday. I see a spike down here. I'm not sure what that all that was about here. That was after the close. There were a couple odd lots. But when I see stocks making moves like this, I just like to keep an eye on the all-time high, 117.74. See if double top develops. And also the all-time high close, 115.99. Those what people are marked on, in their positions in their portfolio, and that's what they're keeping an eye on. Not as so much as the 117.74 high, but that all-time close, 115.99, is really more importance to me.
Hey, Cold Suck, not seeing any news recently on the name. However, something to watch out for. The company will be presenting at the Cowen Healthcare Conference on March 4th. Sanj Patel, President and CEO, will be presenting at that at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Time. So a bit of a catalyst coming up for you. Is that next week already? March 4th? That
Yeah,
is.
that's next
That is.
week.
That's next
Wow,
Tuesday.
next
Okay.
Thursday.
Tuesday.
Oh no, Tuesday. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Tuesday. Yeah. So the Jiva, you guys want to make sure you look out for that Colts on actual Tuesday. I just asked Colts in the chat room too. Are you a Peyton Manning fan? Because if you are, I'm pretty sure Joe and I are friends of yours, Colts, because we can gang up on here with the boys of blue, Joel Conan. Next up, real quick, before we have our next guest on at 9 a.m., Ryan Mallory. I want to look at ONVO,
Oh
Joel.
yeah, good old ONVO. This thing has been all over the map so far this
Violin
year.
maker, make sure you listen up. I know he's got a small position in ONVO right now.
Yeah, someone came out pretty negative on it, and I can't remember if it was a Seeking Alpha article. Took it down to the $8 level where you had some multiple lows here. This is what I'd like to see, Violin Maker. Gotta get through 1084. 1080 and 1084 were the double top. Buyers or sellers stepped down to 1041 in yesterday's session. Probably a seller stalking here at 11. If you don't get some follow through that double top here, next day or two, you may fall back down. Good support so far at the $10 level, 1001, 1003, the last 2 days lows. It's just they got to come out with the product that they say they have. They're taking the 3D printing into the health sector. Really haven't. They've had some trials and brought out some good things, but this is one of these stocks where you're gonna wake up in one morning, it's either gonna be at 17 or 18 or 2 or 3. I mean, that's you're taking your risk with it. I know Dennis is still holding on to a little bit, but shorter term, like to see it get through the 1080 to 1084 level here. Facebook, we got to talk a little bit about
Oh, we got
Facebook.
to talk about Facebook.
Yeah. I was reviewing my article on Seeking Alpha when I wrote off the IPO, and I talked what a screaming buy it was at $40, and I looked at all the nasty notes from people that wrote me as it went to 32, and then I said I liked it at 32, and then it went to 18, and they were still piling on me now. But now what you got to look at Facebook here, traded up in the pre-market. 71's minor resistance. That was a high from yesterday. That coincides with the all-time high close of 70.78. All-time high 71.44. So those are levels to look at. Looks like it's going to have a couple days of consolidation. I wouldn't worry too much about it breaking down. If you do get through the 69.45 level, that's 70 cents away from here. It looks like you got another buck drop down to the double bottom at 68.45 and 68.54.
All right, I want to look at Win. I'm always long Win whenever I go to Vegas because I'm pretty sure that I am half of their EPS. So Win, WYNN, Joel.
Looks like we got a spike. Now, what did we do that? No, we did not. Yep, 9:15 last night. No, that would have been yesterday's trading. All-time high in Win, 240.
All time high. Look at that thing.
240.52. You made a keep an eye on this double close area, folks. Close on Monday 235.59. Close yesterday 235.15. We are trading below that. Someone might be targeting this whole 235, 235.50 area to exit a position. Under 233.61, get out of the way. Don't see support for another 4 points down to Monday's low at 229.19.
All right, Joel. I want to do one more ticker here before we pull on our next guest.
Okay?
And I am looking at. Did we already look at CPST?
CPST. I don't think so.
Believe we had that in the chat.
You are the ticker monster, huh?
Capstone Turbine.
Capstone Turbine Corporation, Joel.
It's a mover here. Trading up a whole nickel in the pre-market. Strong move yesterday, up to 188, trading above that in the pre-market. I just see probably some stock to chew through at $2. You had a couple highs, 203, 207, 214. So like to see it get back above 2 and hold it for a couple days, and then I don't know what the news was back in 08, 09 that took this down, but $2 over the next couple days, and you might get another leg up here in the issue.
Before we take a break here real quick, I see Harlan just typed in on TUR. He said gobble gobble stock is in a clearly defined downtrend with support at 40, but 40 has to stick. So some really great insights in that chat. Keep asking Harlan as he's in there answering your guys' questions. Make sure to check out his All About Trends. We're going to take a quick break, and that's it for me today. I'm a part-timer taking off at 9 o'clock this morning. Up next, we have Ryan Mallory, co-founder of Share Planner. Folks, stay tuned. He's going to have some great trading insights for us when we get back.
Welcome back, traders and investors. We have Ryan Mallory of Share Planner today to give you some of insights on his trading and the markets. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on. Before we get started, could you just give us a little bit of your educational background and your history in the markets?
Yeah, sure. I started trading when I was about 11 years old. Not as a anything with skill or knowledge or anything, but simply because I had inherited a small amount of money, about $5,000 when I was 11 years old, and instead of using it for college like my siblings had to use theirs for, my father used it instead to introduce me to the stock market, and I pretty much followed his advice, and during the 90s everything was working well, so that money quickly evolved into about $30,000 by the time I went to college, and then you had the market crash in the 90s or in 2000 after the huge run up in the 90s, and I quickly learned that there was a side to the market that involved extreme loss, and so that was a big education to me, and a huge introduction for me in the stock market, and one that would later serve me very well, when 2008 came and the subsequent bounce in 2009. But so I started pretty young in the stock market, and then when I was in college, I sort of drifted away from it for a little bit, and then when I took a job in corporate America, I disliked my job quite a bit. So then I renewed my interest in the stock market and traded in part time for quite a while in corporate America, and then did well enough to where I could quit my job and trade full time. So, and that's
Okay.
then where Share Planner came from.
Okay. So what do you primarily trade?
I trade equities, no ETFs really, but just straight equities, long and short.
And nothing in the options or futures markets.
No, I find the more that I dabble in those markets, the worse my returns are. So I stick with what I do the best at, and that is the equities.
Okay, yeah, you briefly mentioned that you had the nice run up in your portfolio, and then the market taught you a lesson. Did what was that lesson that you need to like learn how to play the short side, and are you able to play both sides of the markets?
Absolutely, I think that was one of the big things. But the other big lesson for me was just respecting risk in the markets. I think oftentimes we get caught up in how much money can I make in a trade, or how much can this stock go up, instead of really focusing on is how far can this stock drop on me before I'll realize it's time to get out. And so and that applies both to the long and to the short side as well. So that's one of the biggest lessons that I think traders of all levels of experience needs to keep in mind.
Okay. So have you developed like a core strategies and you just stick with those, or are you always trying to develop new strategies to adapt to the new different market conditions?
Yeah, I look at new trends in the markets as the markets mature. You start seeing new patterns that are developing, and you try to make adjustments accordingly. But my core approach to the market of keeping risk as tight as possible on every trade, somewhere in the realm of 1.5 to 3.5 to 4% on each and every trade, and not really deviating outside of that while maximizing the profits on those trades. That's really my focus on everything, and I use that with technical analysis on every one of my trades.
Okay, so you're day trader primarily, swing trader, or a little bit of both?
Swing trader. I mean, I don't think I make the best day trader, but I do quite well with the swing trading.
Okay, so tell us about Share Planner.
So yeah, this is a company I started about 8 years ago, and we have plenty of content on there every day that's being posted, but also my premium service, the Splash Zone, offers all my swing trades in real-time text and email alerts. We have a very vibrant chat room with lots of other traders that are actually really good, and so you get all of that and for a small monthly fee, and it seems like people really like it quite a bit, and it continues to grow each day.
Okay, and what's the cost of it?
$59.95 a month.
Okay, and who do you seem to attracted? Retail investors, or do you have any institutional clientele?
Retail primarily, and you don't see too many institutional, but they could be out there.
Okay, all right. So from just from what I gather so far, speaking to you, you seem to be a pretty technical trader. Then, so you try and ignore the fundamentals, or where do they play a role in any of your trading?
No, the fundamentals don't play a huge role for me. I mean, if there's something out there, for instance, that this company's reporting earnings the next day, I'm not gonna swing trade that. Or if it's a biotech stock that I know there's a major FDA decision that's coming out at sometime in the near future that could dramatically affect the stock, I'll pass on that. But as far as looking at PEs and balance sheets, I stay away from that. I'm purely technical.
Okay, so what type of charts do you prefer in time frames? Are you a bar chart, candlestick guy? What kind of charts do you like, and what time frames do you follow?
I do all candlesticks, and the time frames I use three different ones. I use the daily primarily. That's where my watch lists are created from, and where I'm looking for price patterns for where to put the stop losses and everything else. But then I use like the 5-minute candles. simply to like stage entry. So on those 5-minute charts, I'll put pivot points on those charts, and if I see a stock that I really want to get into, but it's gone through like the R3 pivot point already on the day, I'll probably stay away from that. Or if it's trading well outside of the upper Bollinger Band, I'll wait for like some kind of a pullback before I get in. So that's where like the 5-minute candles come into play. And then you have like the weekly, which I don't put a huge emphasis on, but oftentimes I'll flip to the weekly just to see if there's any other concerning price patterns that maybe doesn't show up on the daily.
How about that pivot? You use that pivot point formula, huh? With the R1, R2, and R3. That's something that's been around for years, and it seems like a lot of traders you kind of use as an old standby.
Yeah, I do, and really I use it as a gauge to make sure that I'm not getting into a stock that's made a lot of its money already on the day and has limited upside, rather than I'll wait for it to pull back if it's just way out there in the R3 area or higher.
Right. So so you'll use that, and then probably also the average daily range. When it incorporates with that, it was something that would give you a little bit of an inclination when something's overextended. Do you trade after hours or in the pre-market?
No, I don't. I've been able to do everything, during normal market hours. Everything's simple with my trading strategy. I keep only 10 positions max in my portfolio, and rarely do I even reach 10 positions. And I keep it pretty simple. I mean, 10% position sizes all in on a trade and all out on a trade. I don't do any scaling in or scaling out.
Okay. So what do you got? What do you got on the radar for today?
So I got a few stocks that I'm looking at. One of them is FFIV. I got stopped out of this one actually yesterday. I guess I shouldn't say stopped out. I closed it out before I got stopped out, simply because the stock wasn't behaving like I wanted it to, and the market wasn't really behaving like we were wanting it to either from a bullish standpoint. And but if the market can sort of get back on the track today, I think FFIV has some nice consolidation that if it can break through some of these recent highs, and out of that consolidation pattern, I think that'll offer a great risk reward right there. You have GES, which is I like the stock a lot, but the only problem with it, I would have probably been in it yesterday, but there's just not a lot of volume popping up in it over the last 3 days. It's just been very low, quite honestly. So if there can get a little bit more pickup in the volume side, I think that will make a great trade. And then you got Goodyear Tire GT, which is consolidating nicely as well. And a lot of times I use like the consolidation to be able to determine my risk on the trade, because if the stock breaks out and then it breaks, and let's say it's a bad trade and it breaks below that consolidation that you were previously trading in, and you have a clear area of where you need to get out because the risk is clearly not in your favor anymore. So the consolidation is oftentimes what I'm looking for a breakout of that consolidation.
Right.
So in GT,
Yeah.
you have a nice bull flag there that can keep the risk very tight, maybe like 2 or 3% on the trade. So if you're wrong, you're going to know it pretty quickly, while the upside has about 8 or 9% to it. So you're making like a 3-to-1 risk or reward to risk on that trade.
Right. Okay. So what do you think is the most common mistake the new traders make?
Oh, well, I think what a lot of traders will really stumble themselves up on is focusing on the dollar amount that they are making on a trade. They start personalizing profits, and they start personalizing losses. So if they're up $500 or $600 on a trade, they start thinking about how can I keep this $500 or $600 rather than just following what the charts are showing them. And instead of looking at the price action, they'll start looking at the upticks or downticks and the dollar value of that trade. And what happens is they start like personalizing that. They'll start relating, $500 to a new iPad for Junior, or they'll start, thinking about a mortgage payment that they could make with that money, instead of just focusing entirely on the risk and the reward aspect of the trade. So I always tell people, don't really look at the dollar amounts on the trade. Follow the percentages and how much you're risking and the risk reward and the price action, but try to stay away from the dollar amount in terms of profit, how much you're making or losing on a trade.
Take a look here at a couple symbols here that our traders are active in. You got your charts in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay. We get some questions here on plug, PLUG here, trading up here in the pre-market, broke above the $4 level. I see a high in the pre-market of 465, and I see a recent high this year at 490. Gap and go on this one.
Yeah. This is a stock that I've heard a lot of chatter about of late, and a lot of people are trading it. The thing you have to ask yourself, and it goes back to the risk and the reward, is how much. This is obviously going to be a volatile stock today, just as it's been recently. But when you're going to trade this thing, I mean, how much are you willing to risk in order to be right? I mean, I think on a stock like this, you got to probably risk, a stop loss of somewhere between 7 to 8%, just to make sure you're not erroneously stopped out from just, coming back and forth in the stock. So that kind of a trade there, it can be very difficult to make, just simply trying to control the risk aspect of it. So, and then you also have to look at too is how much of the easy money has already been made on the trade. And you look at the stock that's made a run from like 50, 60 cents all the way up to 450, and you're starting to get to a point where there could be a lot of profit takers that swarm in and really bust the chops of the bulls.
Right. Okay. So, and do you put a lot of emphasis on the opening price? Where stocks open and that trading within the first 5 minutes, or do you kind of use a little bit, have other little tricks that you use off the open?
I stay away from the opening price, quite honestly, in terms of trading in the first 30 minutes. I usually will never do. I'll take losses in the first 30 minutes, if my stops are triggered, but I really try to stay away from it just because it's just so unpredictable about A, where the market's going to go, and B, where the stocks are ultimately going to go as well. So, I try to let the market settle in a little bit and try to get a little bit better direction out of both the market and the stocks before really trading on the day.
Okay, and just some final tips for traders.
Yeah, always. I know I probably sound redundant, but I truly believe that if you respect the risk on a trade, if you respect and you set in place before you ever get in the trade where you're going to get out at, and you follow your risk plans, that the profits will take care of themselves. 90% of trading has everything to do with how the person is managing the trade. And some people will probably disagree with this. I think the actual stock that you're trading in has far less to do than the stock that you're actually, or than the manner in which you're trading it.
Okay, and just a question popping up here before we let you go from DJ. Retail stocks have had a bad year so far, and now that the polar vortex is over, I hope it's over there, DJ. What do you think about the turnaround in something like Target? After it's been beat down, or do you have any other retail stocks that you should be eyeing? And DJ, if you picked up your Barron's on Saturday, there's a real good article by a former Army meteorologist that talks about this exact thing. So I hope you got your Barron's. It was a good article on there. But anyways, Ryan, what are you looking at on Target here? And is there any other retailers you think that might rally here once the polar vortex is over?
Yeah, Target, they reported earnings today, and they seem like they're, popping a little bit off of their earnings. Obviously, with the whole data breach that, spooked traders quite a bit and led to the subsequent sell-off, I think there is a possible basing pattern that's going on with Target. You have this range between 50, 55-ish all the way up to almost 58, to where if it can actually break out and push above 58, there's a legitimate chance that you could trade this stock with an entry around 58, put a stop loss maybe at 55.95, and only have about a less than a 4% stop loss, and see a upward move possibly up to $62, $63 before you really hit any major resistance, and that gives you a 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio on that trade. But so that's how I would probably trade Target if you're looking for a play right there. Other retailers, I mentioned Guess, GES earlier. Some of your bigger retailers like Walmart, I really don't see any play in Walmart right now, but Target has a decent trading opportunity there. You just have to be patient enough to see, okay, it can't cross 58, and then trade it, and then once it does cross 58, you got to make sure you put that stop loss in around 56 or 55.95 or so.
Okay, Harlan, I really like you're very consistent, with, using stops and risk reward ratios. I think that's what traders need to pay attention to in these volatile markets. We really appreciate you coming on the show today, Ryan, and we hope you have a great trading day, and certainly like to have you on back again.
I appreciate you having me.
Okay, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe. Since I skipped over you at the beginning of the show,
And now you're trying to just push the interview to eliminate my section later in the show. You just want me out of here, don't you, Joel?
no, I'm getting a little reprieve from you next week, so I think I can hang in here the next 3 days.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I think we can make it work. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ryan Mallory of Share Planner. That was pretty cool, wasn't it, Joel?
Yeah, I like it. I like these traders when they come on, whether it's Gil Morales or you have Harlan on or you have any other of these guests are trade, and they talk about risk reward. That's what Dennis and I try and talk about. And at least if you're using good risk rewards, you can live to trade another day.
Live to trade another day. Capital preservation is key, as Christian Tharp says from the Adam Mesh Group. We should get Christian on again, covering his 5-star stock watches lately.
Did we have him on?
Yeah, we've had him on, I think, once, maybe twice before, and he always puts that at the bottom of his pieces that, you'll be around for another day. Capital preservation is key. So, words to live by, I suppose. But
Joe, you're really going with the trader talk today.
what can I say? What can I say? So, but actually, Joel, I have a question for you. I was just asking Brent this the other day, a few minutes ago. Do you know when Fifth and Pacific, FNP, switched their symbol to Kate?
It sounds like a joke.
No, it's not a joke. I have a report here from Manas Crespi downgrading Kate from buy to neutral, but when you look at Google Finance, Kate, the symbol Kate is for Fifth and Pacific, which formerly was FMP. Just a little confused about what's going on here.
I can't help you on that one.
Darn it, Joel. Darn it. All right. We'll figure that one out later for everyone. Moving into today's headlines from around the globe, President Barack Obama is asking Congress for $300 billion to update the nation's roads and railways. Hopefully some of that money comes to Michigan because our roads here are terrible. Obama plans to make the proposal Wednesday at the Union Depot Rail and Bus Station in St. Paul, Minnesota. The Highway Trust Fund finances federal highway and transit programs, but is forecast to go broke as early as August. The fund needs $100 billion over the next 6 years just to maintain current spending levels. But Obama and Congress don't want to raise gas taxes to make up the gap. Thank goodness for that. Obama is proposing that half the $302 billion he's proposing come from an overhaul of corporate taxes, but he says he's open to other ideas. He also plans to announce a $600 million competition for federal grants to fund infrastructure projects that create jobs. JP Morgan Chase, the largest U.S. bank, announced thousands of job cuts on Tuesday as the mortgage lending business slows and said that it was lowering its profitability target. The company said it expected total headcount to fall by 5,000 to 260,000 employees in 2014. Around 6,000 full-time and contractor jobs in JP Morgan's home loans unit and 2,000 jobs in its branch and credit card network will be cut. At the same time, the bank expects to add 3,000 new jobs in its control function, including areas like compliance. Speaking at the bank's annual conference with investors, Chief Financial Officer Mary Ann Lake said the bank could post higher profit, possibly up to $27 billion in a year, once short-term interest rates rise. The bank reported $18 billion net income in 2013, but Lake said excluding significant one-time items, its core performance was $23 billion. But because the bank cannot fund as many of its assets with debt, a measure of the profit it generates from equity will likely be lower. So, just a suggestion, if you're a mortgage banker for JP Morgan, you might want to go looking for jobs at Wells Fargo because they're getting back into subprime lending and therefore will increase their mortgage lending this year. Bank of America may have a new mortgage problem on its plate, saying on Tuesday the federal investigators are looking into whether the bank violated requirements of a U.S. government housing program. The second largest U.S. bank said the Civil Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for Eastern District of New York and Brooklyn is investigating Bank of America's compliance with the rules of the Federal Housing Administration's direct endorsement program. Bank of America made the disclosure in its annual report filed on Tuesday with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Spokesman for Bank of America and U.S. Attorney Loretta Lynch declined to provide additional details on the probe. Morgan Stanley agreed to pay the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission $275 million to resolve a probe into the sale of subprime mortgage-backed securities in 2007. The SEC hasn't presented the proposed settlement to the Commission and offered no assurance it will be accepted. The New York-based bank said yesterday in an annual regulatory filing. The firm said it's also responding to subpoenas and requests for information from federal and state regulators in mortgage-related matters. Morgan Stanley listed 9 legal matters it resolved or settled since October, including agreements with MetLife and Cambridge Place Investment Management, as the largest U.S. banks seek to put crisis-era lawsuits behind them. The firm said its litigation costs more than tripled to $1.95 billion in 2013 from $513 million in 2012. That is a lot of money in legal fees. Almost a year to the day since his historic resignation, Pope Emeritus Benedict, was that 16, has denied that he came under pressure within the Vatican to give up the job. In a rare public statement, the 86-year-old former pontiff insisted that he had freely taken the decision to become the first pope since the Middle Ages to resign in the seat of St. Peter, in a move that shocked the Catholic Church and made headlines around the world. General Motors, which Tuesday doubled the size of its recall for older cars with faulty ignition switches that can cause airbags not to deploy in crashes, spent nearly a decade studying the issue and repeatedly opted not to recall the vehicles or pay for potentially expensive fixes. Ford Pinto all over again. The Detroit automaker said it will recall more than 1.6 million cars worldwide after reports of 13 deaths and 31 crashes linked to the issue. The decision that came less than 2 weeks after the automaker insisted it needed to recall only about 780,000 cars. A chronology of its actions turned over to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on Monday showed GM downplayed the ignition switch issue in prior years, including canceling in 2005 an approved redesign of the ignition key head. By the end of 2007, GM said it knew of 10 frontal crashes in which airbags did not deploy, linked to the ignition problem, but the automaker opted not to recall the cars. GM North America President Alan Beatty said the company was deeply sorry. "We're sorry," a rare apology for the automaker over a safety issue. The automaker said if a heavy key ring is added or the car runs off the road or experiences some other jarring event, such as a crash, the ignition switch may inadvertently move out of the run position. That, in turn, disables the airbags. "We're sorry." Ford Motor on Friday plans to announce more details of its manufacturing shift of medium-duty trucks from Mexico to the U.S., according to a person with knowledge of the timing. The Dearborn automaker will build its F650 and F750 trucks at its Ohio assembly plant in Avon Lake, Ohio, near Cleveland. The switch is likely to take place late this year or in early 2015. Ford currently manufactures the F650 and 750 in Escobedo, Mexico, through a joint venture with Navistar International called Blue Diamond Truck LLC. That joint venture dates back to 2001. Consumer Reports said 4 new models cracked its top 2014 vehicles list, with Chrysler Group making the list for the first time in 16 years, while luxury and Japanese brands dominated overall brand ratings. Did it say what the last Chrysler was in the list? 16 years. It's probably like the minivans, right? Yeah. Consumer Reports said the Hyundai Santa Fe, Ram 1500, Subaru Forester, and Tesla Model S won the top honors in 4 categories. Tesla Model S was top pick for best overall vehicle for its exceptional performance and its many impressive technological innovations. 98 Jeep Grand Cherokee was the last Chrysler on the list. The Ram 1500 won Best Pickup Truck, a category that wasn't rated last year because the magazine had not yet tested 2 newly released vehicles in that segment. The CEO of BlackBerry admitted the launch of its BlackBerry 10 mobile operating system and the accompanying Z10 handset made the firm lose focus on the enterprise and damaged its relationship with its business customer base. During a press briefing at this week's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Computer Weekly asked John Chen whether his predecessor's focus on the consumer market had damaged BlackBerry's reputation with enterprises, and he admitted there was a certain truth to that statement. It is not about us leaving the enterprise customers before any time, but I think it's about us spreading ourselves a little too thin, he said. Chen explained the reasons for the perceived failure of BlackBerry 10 operating system, calling it a very, very good technology, but one that was too complex for the user. The good news is there's demand for the WWE Network, however not in this office. The bad news, there were still technical issues to be worked out with the over-the-top service that launched Monday. After WWE's tech partner MLB Advanced Media was overwhelmed by the number of subscribers wanting to sign up for the service, WWE said Tuesday that it was still fixing bugs that affected 20% of subscribers looking to access video from its library. The company made the announcement via the network's Twitter feed. And today's trivia tidbit. On this date in 1995, the United Kingdom's oldest investment banking institute, Barings Bank, collapses after securities broker Nick Leeson loses $1.4 billion by speculating on the Singapore International Monetary Exchange using futures contracts. That wraps it up for today's editorial headlines. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, the show would not be possible without our friends at Options House. They'll give you 150 commission-free trades if you open an account through this page. There's buttons at the top, at the bottom right. Go ahead, click through, open an Options House account, get 150 commission-free trades just because you listened to Benzinga's pre-market prep. And also, if you're not in the chat already, please sign in, ask your questions. We'll answer them live on the show or after the guest speaker is on. We'd love to have your feedback and engagement, so definitely feel free to chime in with any questions you might have. And with that, I think Bren is around here somewhere. There he is. We
Here I
haven't
am.
had any music on the show since Dennis is gone.
I don't know. He's our regular old Frank Sinatra
Yeah, he's got
of
our-
Canada.
Well, normally it's the circus theme, but yeah, the Canadian Frank Sinatra's good
Oh,
too.
you're right. He does do that circus theme thing. So, we are open for trade officially. It's officially 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. 1847 S&P futures. We did get a slight bounce off of just below 1846, which was a hit just before the open. Now we're kind of taking back more ground. 1848 is nearing 1847.75. Last trade here. Joel, you want to take a look?
Have I been pounding that 1846 level into your head here for the last couple days, or what?
To say the least, yes.
Yeah, you had the former all-time high at 46.50. You had the close 2 days ago at 46 even. Now you got a 46 and a quarter close. This is just such a key level for the market to hold, and looks like we're holding it off the hop here early in the trading. I just like it above there. I think next resistance point perhaps sneak up into the 1850 handle. 1851 was yesterday's high. We've hit 53 and a quarter in the pre-market, and the all-time high is 1856.75. So
What are we looking at on the downside if we cannot hold that
that's a very.
1846?
I was just thinking about that myself. And if you take out that 1846 and a quarter low, I don't see a lot of very good support here until you got to see the next minor support, 1843.50. But we started to sell off yesterday off the open, and got down to 1837, and that just doesn't look like it's going to happen here. It looks like the breakout and potential fake out is turning into more of a breakout.
Good news for the Bulls.
Yes, good news for the Bulls here. Let's just take a quick look here at some of the issues that we covered in this morning's show. Big miss out of First Solar here.
Stock's still getting killed.
Still getting killed, and what I think is interesting for our traders to note here is we had talked about the pre-market lows at 49.50 and how it just had held up for a long time. Well, here's one of those rare opportunities where if you had been paying attention to the pre-market lows, you got a shot in it off the open as it came down to 49.52, and now has made a nice bounce here. The high for the session, though, has been 51 and a quarter. Let's keep an eye. Had a couple other highs. I really want to get real crazy about the upside here until it can get back over 51.70. But if you get another swoon back down to that 40 under $50, I think people might be upping their bids.
And you know what, Joel? We could be looking at a bit of a change in the solar market here because First Solar, this has been kind of the best of the breed, cream of the crop type of solar play, and now I'm looking at some of the other solar plays they are not following this morning, which is I was expecting, Sun Power to be down 3 or 4%. I was expecting Trina Solar to be down a good 3 or 4 or 5%. We have Sun Power trading about 1% lower. Trina Solar is trading down about a 0.75%. A lot of the other stocks in the solar group are trading higher this morning, so not a lot of follow through. And previously, First Solar is kind of the leader of the pack, kind of dictates where a lot of those other solar stocks. Not seeing that this morning.
Right, and what you're not seeing here is the S&Ps here following through. Back, showed a little red here on the
Yikes.
board, hanging here at this 1846 level. I guess I'm not the only one that recognizes this as an important level here. We're back at the close here.
I did see a print under 1846, and now it looks like
Yeah,
we
it's
kind
still
of want to
hanging
hold.
in there. It's hanging. It's giving bears like me like a hope, like it's not gonna hold 1846. Time to get short, but I'm not falling for it
All
this
right.
time. Yeah, I'm not falling for it at all here. Let's take a look at some of the other issues that we talked about. Target here breaking above the $58 level. Decent earnings there. Had a lot of resistance in the issue. Just under 58. Now we've broken above it. But I just don't like these gaps up. If you're playing this one and it comes back down to that 58.10 low, watch out. If not, trying to play it on the upside. Kind of hanging out mid-range here on the day. You've had a 65-cent range. Take half of that, 32. Need to get back above this 48.50 level. Get back up and challenge the high. Uh, Whoever owns some of these pizza stocks has been making dough here. Papa John's. Uh, Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That is a big range in this thing here. Papa John's very volatile today. I don't know what reason it went down to 47.43, but we spiked back up to 49.69. That is an all-time high for Papa John's Pizza. So if you're looking to sell the top, here it is. Maybe there's some pop here at stock for sale at 50. Nice round number. It's never been up at that level. Uh, Chicago Bridge and Iron, perhaps a compliment, or what's saying about working on the infrastructure here in our country. Popped up, took out the all-time high from the pre-market, which was right around 82.50, went out to 83.20. What's kind of a little bit, what did we get here? We got nope, that's the all-time high is 83.42. I stand corrected. Major resistance still up here in the 83 handle. We hit 83.20. Then you have 3 or 4 highs here at 83.28 to 83.42 back in mid-February.
Well, Joel, I figure I'll hop in here.
Cool. You
Get
gave us
involved.
that great trade in Dick's Sporting Goods yesterday, so now we're gonna rely on you for one really good trade a day.
Oh, perfect. That's gonna go well. All right. Well, I guess I'll hop into some earnings. Maybe one of these will yield a good trade, I guess. Target Corporation pulled out earnings, or Target, as you like to call them. EPS came in at $1.30 versus $1.24, which is the analysts were looking for. Revenues came in at $21.52 billion versus expected $21.48 billion. So top line looks okay, bottom line looks okay. Then the guidance came out. Fiscal year 2014 guiding 385 to 415. Street was looking for 415, and for the first quarter of 2014 was looking pretty rough, 60 cents to 75 cents a share, while the Street was looking for 85 cents a share. So target Tango Golf Tango for anyone that's on their own charts there. The earnings looked okay, but the guidance was just abysmal.
Yeah, but they're still taking it up 2 sticks here, so maybe it's just shorts finally throwing in the towel here. 58.75 is the level that we've hit here in the pre-market. 58.72 was your high on January 23rd. That's your resistance point. Once you get above that, if you don't have any paper holding you down at 15, you have a perfect double top at 59.81 and 982. I think that's a little bit out of the question here. Let's see if we can get to this 58.72 level. Take out the paper at 59.
Well, continuing that retail trend, we also had TJ Maxx
Oh
this
yeah.
morning reporting earnings. Ticker is TJX, like I said. EPS came in 81 cents, missing expectations of 83 cents, while revenues came in at 7.81 billion, slightly missing expectations of 7.86 billion. So slight miss on the bottom line there, slight miss on the top. They did release some guidance. Fiscal year 2014, 305 to 319 a share, which was below street estimates of 324 a share. They guided the first quarter 65 cents to 66 cents. Street was looking for 71 cents. So TJ Maxx kind of doing the same thing as Target, except they didn't beat on their report. They just missed on guidance. So
You ever shop there?
a long time ago I did. It kind of reminds me of JCPenney, except they're not. I don't think they're dying like JCPenney is.
I think I went in there once, and it was like, I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe Lisa sent me to get something there, and I was in the store, and the stuff was just all over the place. I didn't know where anything was, so I just bailed on it. But you got the close from yesterday at 61.31, and you did dip below that. You made a low at 61.04 here. Got the rally up to 62 and a quarter, but you're right back down here. I guess you can stick with it on the long side here if it takes out this 61.04 low. Don't have a lot until Tuesday's low at 60 even.
Well, Joel, I'd just like to take a moment to compliment your Canadian tuxedo. I see you're really channeling the Dennis here. Denim shirt and denim jeans.
You know,
got the jean jacket too to
you know
finish off
what?
the look.
I was waiting for a comment like that.
I can't believe no one's made it. I rolled over here. I was just like, come on.
You know what? Because my kids make fun of me every time I wear this, and you know what I tell them?
Huh?
It goes. I don't care. You know, it's denim. Also, I just didn't have a lot of clean clothes, and
That'll do it.
in the laundry basket.
Been there.
And Lisa slept in. So I couldn't turn the light on. So it was
What are you
like
gonna do?
in the closet, just grab
Just
it.
grab whatever and hope.
Yeah, and I'm like, uh-oh. But I do think it's like, what did you call it there?
Canadian tuxedo.
Why is it the Canadian?
It was just like
denim Dan.
yeah. The Canadians love their denim, both top
that
and
what-
bottom. Yes, that's what I was saying. You're channeling the Dennis here because he's off the show.
Oh,
really.
that's great, man.
yeah.
That is. I hope he's listening there.
Me too.
That's funny. But okay, what else we got going?
Well, we got Chesapeake Energy. They brought out with earnings this morning too, 27 cents versus the 41-cent estimate. Now that's CHK Charlie Hotel Kilo. And that's all we had. We didn't have any guidance from them yet, so looks like it's the earnings that are going to be fueling this one today. What are you thinking there, Joel?
You gotta. I mean, if you'd like to interpret the bad news, and you took a shot off the open here, open right near its high of the day here. So, got good for that. If you're playing that quick, 26.02 open, 26.14 high. Now we swooned down to the $25 level. Getting a nice bounce at. If you come back down under 25, be aware of another low that you had at 24.87.
And with a more refreshing earnings report here is Anheuser-Busch. Ooh. Bud, Bravo Uniform Delta, EPS came in at $1.46 versus the $1.31 expected, while revenues came in at $11.6 billion, missing expectations of $11.7 billion. So Anheuser-Busch with a little bit of a mixed report there. Joel, any thoughts on King of Beers here?
Yeah, they still took it up off the open, 102.93 open, 87 low, popped it up to 103.57 here. Really don't see a relevant resistance level in Budweiser until you get to 104.05, 104.31. Those are the highs you had on January 22nd and January 23rd.
Well, kind of backing up as we head towards the end of the show here, S&P 500's still continuing to rally. Dow continues to rally. Nasdaq's even showing a little bit of strength, but gold is pulling back while crude oil is hanging above that 102 with pretty much conviction there. Joel, what do you think on the broader markets today? I want to make sure we get
I'll
some
tell
time
you,
to look into this.
I'm a little concerned here that we were trading up for most of the pre-market. Couldn't sneak into the 1850 handle, and now we're back below the close here at 1846 and a quarter here. So I'll give it another 15 minutes here to get back above the close and hold that, or it just looks like we still could be in the fake out instead of the breakout.
Over one of the macro guys are there's the headlines coming out where Russia says that they're going to be taking measures to ensure the security of Ukraine and with their Black Sea naval fleet. So I don't know what they're worried about, but it looks like they're continuing that naval buildup around Ukraine. So
Not good.
no, especially and they're also saying they're going to plan security drills, which basically is war games and more posturing. But apparently overseas we're seeing a lot of a risk off right now, which is interesting. Why gold would be trading down right now? It's kind of confusing to me. If we're getting a risk off over there, I'm surprised
Yeah.
it hasn't come over here yet. I just wonder if maybe there's a lag. I don't know if there's a lag right now or not, but if there is, we may see a little bit of a pullback on that.
Yeah, gold is a little a hedge against worldwide chaos here. So, but it's had a nice run, some divergence here. See, now it's trading down with the market here. We've really given up that close here. We're making new lows on the session, so a little bit of trouble here at that all-time high close, 1846 and a quarter. Oil's still hanging up there, but I just don't like the fact that it didn't go right up to that resistance at 102.82, 102.84, and now it just may fall back with the market. Gold is getting a little bit of a boost here, $6 off the low of the day. So perhaps some of that Ukrainian chaos is sending people into the bullion. GGB, I just want you to know that I am wearing blue socks, so I'm totally matching in my outfit today, even though it's not the greatest of style. And I'll stick with it, denim on denim here. Get long Levi's. That's our show for today. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow.